fun. All right, this is a reminder, Class Connect sessions are recorded and distributed for learning purposes that are listed here. As always, be respectful, appropriate, and participate, but please don't share personal information such as contact info or social media info in the chat box for security reasons. Super important, guys. Please do not share any contact info in the chat box. Otherwise, your chat privileges will be removed. All right, so don't do that. So you should have the January 30th attendance ticket open. You don't need to do anything with it yet because you'll notice that you can't answer the questions yet because we haven't gone over the content yet. So just grab the link, open it up. Pat's being a joker. Open it up. Password is in the chat box. You will notice that I do never actually say the password in the recording because it's not provided in the recording. You have to come to live class to actually get the password. So if you took the survey and you turned the survey in late, I would not have been able to grade it yet. Okay, so you might just need to wait. Okay, so if you took the survey and it hasn't been graded yet, you just need to wait because it has to be graded by me by hand. Okay, and I don't grade it constantly all night long. I just grade them all at once, and if they're late, they have to wait until I am grading. Okay, does that make sense, Angel? But if you're really seeing something totally like wrong and it says that you've done the survey and everything, let me know. But otherwise, I'm guessing that's what the issue is. Okay, Dusty, keep on trying. Again, all lowercase. Make sure you spell it correctly. This password that starts with a B, take a look in the chat box. Make sure it's correct. If you're still having any issues, stay after class and I can help you out. Okay, so we are on day 2 of quarter number 3. Again, if you are new with us or just as a reminder, since yesterday was our first day, here is my email and my phone number. Just like you guys, I do prefer to text, so don't be shy. You can text me. You don't have to feel like you have to call me because I very much prefer to text as well. But you can also email. You can also call. Do be aware that you do get 5 attempts on every assignment. So if you don't do well on something the first time, don't freak out. You can still try again until you do it correctly. And up here you can see, down here you can see we are on Wednesday. So we're actually jumping into content today, which we've only got 20 minutes. So it's going to seem like it flies by, but that'll probably be a good thing because you won't be bored. All right. So by the end of class, you should be able to complete the 1A quiz. Quick reminders. Thursday, our normal schedule starts. Smiley faces if that makes sense. Take a look here. Thursday, our normal schedule starts. Remember, Tuesday, Wednesday, we kind of had a different schedule because it was the first day of school, first couple days of school, and you had that assembly for testing. But Thursday, Friday, we go back to normal schedule, which means that you have your first support session, which is tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock if your last name is N through Z. 10:30, this should say AM, not PM. I am not going to be tutoring you at nighttime. It's AM up here. If your last name is A through M, it's at 10:30 AM for you. Okay. Now, this is your first extra credit opportunity, and it is your only extra credit opportunity for week number 1 because it's the only support session that we have for week number 1. Okay. Awesome, Levi. That's good. That means that you already have a really good background knowledge of a lot of the stuff that we'll be talking about. Today's is definitely super easy. So that being said, all you need to do is tomorrow stop in really quickly. I will have you complete an assignment. It's a super short one. It's not like a difficult assignment. It's just like telling me what your grades are, what your goals are, that kind of thing. It'll take you probably 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes if you're a little bit slower at typing, but it's super fast, and you will get extra credit. So you'll get 1% extra credit, which over 10 weeks adds up to 10% extra credit. Smiley faces if that makes sense. Okay. If you attend at least one support session per week and do what I ask you to do, you get 1% extra credit. Okay. All right, there is no rollover, so you can't just not come to any support sessions for the first 3 weeks and then expect that during week 4 you go to all of them and get 4%. It doesn't work like that. It's 1 per week, so you have to be consistent coming each week. Yes, it's in California time. Yep. Remember that in our general live sessions, our class sessions, just like we're having right now, are 10% of your grade. So remember, you should really attend so that you can get the password to the attendance ticket so you don't miss out on 10% of your grade. Again, that makes the difference between an A, a B, a B, a C, a C, a D, so on and so forth. And I do want to give you one more resource, guys. I do have a list of all of our assignments as well as their due dates and their points. It is subject to change, but for the most part, this is what exactly it will look like. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and send that link to you guys really quickly. Here is the assignment list. Okay, so if you guys want, you can bookmark that. It is under your course materials. So if you go to content and then course materials, you'll be able to see that. Okay. Yeah, Dree, you do have a lab on Friday. So tomorrow we have our second quiz. Friday we have a lab. Okay. Smiley faces if you understand all that. Thumbs down if you're confused about anything. Want to make sure everybody's on board with that. Perfect. Okay, let's jump in. So, unit number 1, we're talking all about matter and energy. We're talking about the scientific method, and we will be demonstrating the scientific method as well as graphing through our lab on Friday. No worries. Sorry, is it Nate or Nate? Let me know. But no worries, you're fine. Just make sure you open up your ticket. Okay, oops, that's not it. Sorry. Here's the ticket, and the password is in the chat box for you. Nate. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, so today's objective is super easy. We should be able to use the metric system to describe the 4 fundamental quantities. So today we're going to learn how to measure stuff, okay, which I'm sure many of you already know how to do, but we need to kind of go back to the basics and make sure that we are starting them out correctly from a scientific viewpoint and not from an everyday viewpoint, and we'll see how that's significant a little bit later. We should be able to identify the relationship between derived units and fundamental units and explain what significant figures are. Okay, so super easy. Again, we're starting off with dimensions because it's going to lead us into everything else that we learn about this quarter. If we understand how to measure things correctly, we will be successful because we'll have a good basis for understanding the rest of our quarter. So the main thing here is that the reason we care about measuring things is because it shows the relationship between matter and energy. Now, what we use in America is, in the USA, is what's called the English system. It's found in the USA. It's pretty familiar to most of us, but it's far less easy to use. Think about in 1 foot, how many inches are there? In 1 foot, how many inches are there? Yes, very America here. Yeah, there's 12 inches. And in 1 yard, how many feet are there? Yeah, 3 feet, exactly. You'll notice the answers are up here for you. But those aren't like very nice numbers. Thumbs up if you understand what I mean. They're not nice numbers. Like, you had to memorize those. Those aren't just things that like naturally you're like, oh, that makes sense. They don't make sense, okay? The USA, it's all random nonsense, okay? We've got crazy amounts of inches to feet, feet to yards, yards to a mile, ounces to a pound. It's all over the place. Now, the metric system, which is what we are going to use in, which is what we are going to use in our science class, and which is also used throughout most of the rest of the world because it makes sense and is much easier to use, is the metric system, okay? So in this case, things are multiples of 10, right? So 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So you can see that to go from one type to another, it's all very even. It's in multiples of tens, hundreds, thousands. Thumbs up if you understand. Thumbs up if you understand. Metric system, much easier, and it's what we will be using in our class. Perfect. Okay, so that being said, we need to learn what are the fundamental, awesome, Angel. We need to learn what are the fundamental quantities, which are the most basic measurements. So they're the bottom of the rung. They're the most basic. They're the basis for all other measurements. And they are measured in the metric system in fundamental units. So fundamental means like the main ones. Okay, so fundamental quantities are measured in fundamental units. So the 4 fundamental quantities, the 4 types of things that get measured are distance, mass, time, and temperature. Okay, if you have questions, you guys need to let me know in the chat box. Okay, because I can't know what you're asking me unless you're actually telling me in the chat box. Angel, so you just need to have it open. Once you see a yellow box, I will tell you then to do that question in your attendance ticket. But I always tell you when to do a question in the attendance ticket, so just have it open. Okay? All right, so here are the fundamental ones. Again, they can't be expressed using other things. So distance is measured in meters in science. Mass is measured in grams in science. Time is measured in seconds, and temperature is measured in Celsius. How many of you have seen these units before? Tell me in the chat box. Yes, no, most of them, none of them. Yeah, they're super familiar. So you guys you're already set up to do really well here. Yep-a-rooney. Okay, so let's make sure that makes sense. Grab your whiteboard tools, match these up. All right, fundamental quantity on the left, fundamental unit on the right, Match those up. Tell me what you got. Use the line tool, guys. It's the third tool up from the bottom on your tools menu. Okay. You can use any color, but don't use red and don't use thick lines because then it makes it super messy and nobody can see what they're doing. Okay. And I use the red lines, so that's why we don't use red. Thank you for understanding. All right, guys. I know, there's a lot of students. It definitely looks much less messy once we split off into our two sections. All right, pausing your tools here. Juan, you need to open up the attendance ticket. The link is in the chat box. I just put it there again, and the password is there as well. Okay. All right, guys, let me shrink these down a little bit. Sorry, hold on, guys. There we go. All right, much better. All right, so let's go ahead and make sure this makes sense. So distance, looks like we definitely agreed that distance is measured in meters. You guys are correct. Time is measured in seconds, absolutely. Mass is measured in grams. And last but not least, temperature is measured in degrees Celsius. I'm going to do a different color for that one. I'm going to do that one in blue, just because it's a little bit hard to see. Temperature in degrees Celsius. Awesome, guys. Give yourself a round of applause from the smiley face menu. That was very well done. It's the first button at the top underneath your, no, not the raise your hand button. The smiley face. There you go. All right, so this is number 1 in your ticket. You guys have 30 seconds. Give me a green check when you have number 1 in your ticket saved. Answered and saved. Okay, green check once you have number 1 answered and saved. Go, go, go. All right, looking good. Nete, we are in the attendance ticket. The link is in the chat box with the password, so you need to open that up. And this is the answer to number 1. We just went over number 1 together, and now we're answering it and saving it together. Okay, if you guys ever miss anything, it's always in the recording, but you do need to save the password. So if you miss the password and you don't save it, then you won't be able to do the attendance ticket later for anything that you missed using the recording. Okay? All right, guys, let's keep on going. Sorry, I'm still waiting on a few more green checks. So Aaliyah, Alex, Alexander, Amir, Camille, Cassandra, Deavian, D, let's see here, Donovan, Edwin, Isaiah, Ileana, Isaiah, Israel, Jacob, Jamie, Jacqueline, Joseph, Juan, Julian, Mason, Matt, Morgan, Noah, looking good. All right, guys, give me your green checks. Awesome, looking good. All right, let's go ahead and keep on going here. Okay, so distance, we just talked about it, measured in meters. 1 meter is also the equivalent to about 1 yard. It's slightly bigger. Sorry, is it Morgan or Morgan? Yeah, if I say your name wrong, make sure you let me know, because I don't want to go the entire quarter saying your name incorrectly. Okay, like Morgan. Gotcha. Thank you. So small distances we measure in things like millimeters and centimeters, large distances like in kilometers. So for example, how many of you have ever run a 5K? Tell me in the chat box. Or how many of you would consider it, or how many of you would refuse to ever run a 5K? Yeah, so a 5K is actually about 3 miles, okay? So the kilometers are definitely shorter than a mile, right? So you have a bigger number of kilometers than you do of miles, but they're equivalent to it, right? So a 10K would then be about 6 miles. I know, tired just thinking about it. But again, these are super easy to convert. It's really easy to go from centimeters to millimeters, kilometers to meters, etc., etc. Okay, so super, super easy. Now, time is measured in seconds, which this one we actually do use quite frequently in our USA funny ways to measure things. So 1 second is about the length of 1 heartbeat. So if you think about how fast it takes your heart to beat, that's about 1 second. 1 minute is 60 seconds, 1 hour is 60 minutes, 1 day is 24. Smiley faces if that makes sense. I'm not going to beat this to the dust because I'm sure you guys already know this quite well. Yes, awesome. Mass is measured in grams. Now, mass is kind of unique because mass is the amount of stuff that an object is made of. It is like weight, but it's actually not the same as weight because mass, you have the same amount of stuff no matter where you are in the universe. So your mass will always be the same, whether you're on Earth, on the moon, on Jupiter, in outer space. Weight, on the other hand, depends on gravity. So, for example, on the moon, you weigh what? Think about them jumping on the moon. Do you weigh more or less on the moon? Tell me in the chat box, do you weigh more or less? Yeah, you weigh less because there's actually less gravity on the moon. So mass is similar to weight, but it's not exactly the same thing. Smiley faces, if that makes sense. We're gonna go over that a whole bunch throughout the quarter, but that's really important that we start hearing that terminology now. That mass is related to weight, but not the same thing. Now, one paper clip is about 1 gram, right? You can see right here, this apple is about 73.5 grams, and a human who weighs 120 pounds is about 54,400 grams, which we could easily convert into kilograms because it's all on a 100 scale, 10 scale, right? Which would be 54 kilograms. Yeah, exactly. Cool. The last one, temperature, again, is measured in degrees Celsius. Now, degrees Celsius makes a ton of sense because it's actually based on water, which we as humans love water. So 0 degrees Celsius is the freezing point of water, and 100 degrees Celsius is the boiling point of water, right? You're like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Now, in Fahrenheit, someone came up with the Fahrenheit scale because they were like, this feels cold to me. I'm going to put that at 0. This feels hot to me. I'm going to put that at 100, right? So the Fahrenheit scale does not actually make mathematical sense quite like the Celsius scale does. Right, so let me go ahead and actually show you guys what I mean by that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share this with you on the whiteboard. How many of you have ever used the Celsius scale? Like, have you ever been to another country and used the Celsius scale? Yeah, I feel like for the most part, unless you go to another country, you don't see it very often. Yeah. Okay, smiley faces if you can see my screen here. Smiley faces if you can see my screen here. Sorry, I'm going to turn off the video really quickly just so it doesn't go super slow. Cool. Okay. Yeah, exactly. When you study in a different language. Exactly. Okay, so take a look here, guys. What temperature is it currently in your house or outside? About what temperature is it by you? All right, about 70 degrees. Okay, let's go to 70 degrees. Okay, so here's 70 degrees about in Fahrenheit. What's that in Celsius? So in another country, someone would be like, it's not 70 degrees out, it's 21 degrees, right? And you would be like, that sounds so cold. And they would be like, that sounds delightful. What about, so in Chicago right now, which is where I'm from, they're currently undergoing the polar vortex, so it's super cold. So for them, it's actually negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. What would that be in Celsius? What would that be in Celsius? This is just like very cold. It would just be very cold. Yeah, it's negative 29 degrees Celsius. Okay, now look here though. Again, 0 degrees Celsius is what? 0 degrees Celsius gives us what? It gives us ice, yes. Whereas 100, which is about 32 degrees Fahrenheit, because again, Fahrenheit doesn't make sense. Whereas 100 degrees Celsius gives us what? 100 degrees gives us what? Boiling water, absolutely. Which is 212 degrees Fahrenheit, because again, Fahrenheit doesn't make sense. All right, thumbs up though if that makes sense to you guys, if you understand that. All of these fundamental quantities and their units. Awesome. All right, match these up for me. Grab your whiteboard tools. Use your line tools. Again, thin lines, any color but red. I do prefer you to use the bottom line tool. The top one gets kind of messy, so for the sake of neatness with our 115 students, let's try to be as neat as possible. All right. I know it's hard, guys. Looking good. All right, pausing in 5 seconds. Get your answers up there or forever hold your peace. 3, 2, 1, pausing. All right, guys. Let's go ahead, shrink this down a little bit. And I'm going to delete some of those. I know, right? All right, guys. So 1 meter, yes, you are correct, is about a little over 1 yard. A second is about 1 heartbeat, absolutely. And a gram is about 1 paper clip. That is perfectly done. Let me go ahead and grab a different color here just so we don't get too confused. 0 degrees Celsius, that is when water freezes. 100 is when water boils. Perfect. This is number 2. You have 30 seconds to go ahead and save number 2 in your attendance ticket and give me a green check when you have it saved. Go, go, go. It does save automatically. Just make sure that you answer it and then kind of click off of it into the other part of the page to double check that it saves it. It does, Levi. Awesome. Green checks, please. I know. There's so little time. I know. All right, guys, cool. Here we go. So one of the last blanks here, guys, is that volume is a derived unit, which means derived units are actually combinations of fundamental units. All right. Miss A, I'll go back to it after class is over, but we are out of time, so I'm trying to respect everyone else's time. So just hold on one second. Thank you. All right, so volume is a derived unit, meaning it's actually a combination of distance times 3. Well, distance times itself 3 times. So volume is actually length times length times length, and that helps us to measure out how much space something takes up. Smiley faces, if that makes sense. Okay, so volume is a derived unit. And that idea of times 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 gives us what's called cubic centimeters, which we can also call a milliliter, which you're actually probably super familiar with this idea of liters. So a soda bottle, for example, is 2 liters. All right, this is number 3. Go ahead, fill in the blank with the word derived. Make sure you spell it correctly. Capitalization does not matter, but you do need to spell it correctly. Give me a green check when you have that saved. Go, go, go. Again, number 3 is derived. Okay, spell it correctly. Let's go. So little time, guys. All right, guys, I will go back to it for anyone that missed it, but I do want to let everyone else go. So we're going to go ahead and skip significant figures, which I figured we actually probably would. It's not a big deal. It is not on your quiz, so don't worry about that. But on your quiz, you do have a quiz today. It is the 1A quiz. Now, here's the thing, guys. Everything you just filled out in the attendance ticket is actually the answers to the 1A quiz. Not in the exact same order, usually. Sometimes it is. But it is, in fact, the answers to the quiz. So if you do the ticket correctly, with those yellow boxes, you will get 100% on your quiz. Smiley faces, if that makes sense to you, if you like that process. I try to make it super easy. Again, I'm trying not to give you super busy work. Perfect, guys. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the link to your quiz. Make sure that you open up your quiz and then complete it side by side with your attendance ticket, and then just submit them at the same time. So you're going to do that right now as we end class. All right, and then you will be all set with that, okay? So here we go. Here's your last word. The last word is time for number 4. Thanks so much, guys, and I will see you all later. Hope you have a wonderful day.